Okay. All right. Is anyone not ready to get started? All right. Then we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. I'm not going to say a lot because I'm just going to hand it over to Chief Day. We're going to be watching portions of the video, and Chief Day will be providing some comments, and then at the end we'll have some opportunity for questions. So, Chief.
Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate it. It's been a full day. I started my day this morning, 8 a.m. on a Teams call with family members of Mr. Johnson, expressing our condolences and making sure that they have access to the information that we're sharing with you today, as well as in contact with our Victim Services Unit and our Detectives Division. 9 o'clock this morning, met with a small group of African American leaders that have historically demonstrated a real engagement in civic leadership and in policing matters, and shared the video and things that we're going to be talking about today. And then at 10:30, the mayor and I met with the African American leaders. Mayor and I also met with the mental health leaders around 10:30 and walked through much of the same material that we're going to see today. And then we briefed City Council between 1 and 2 p.m. So have tried to continue in my legacy to be committed to transparency and to sharing as much information as possible. We know that these are ongoing investigations. We know that typically there's more questions than answers at this point, but the Police Bureau has been consistent with the advent of body-worn cameras that at the 14-day mark we would release the names of the officers involved as well as body-worn camera footage. And so that's what we're going to do in regards to this in-custody death that happened 2 weeks ago today. And as you aware, that the officers went to a call for service at an apartment complex in North Portland, where Mr. Johnson had flooded his bedroom, his apartment, had been acting in a threatening manner during the day, dangling knives outside his window. The apartment manager or security had evacuated the third floor of the apartment complex because people were concerned for their safety, and our officers arrived. There's 3 officers on this call, so there is probably about 60 minutes roughly of body-worn camera footage total. We're going to play here edited version that we put together that just does a short introduction by Kevin, kind of gives an overview, some of the custody, and then when he is recognized to be in medical distress, and then when AMR responds. We will be releasing to everyone, of course, all of the raw footage immediately following, which you may or may not already have, but we want to make sure that everybody has everything to look at. It's tough to watch. We always want to remember that the priority for law enforcement is the sanctity of life, and that any loss of life is one life too many. And this is tough to watch. And I know that the process is not very user-friendly, and that we have to really protect the integrity of the investigation, both by the medical examiner, the district attorney's office, the police bureau, the independent police review, IA, and the multiple parties that will be involved in the overview of this. So we'll watch this first portion, and then when we're done with the edited portion, we're going to watch about 10 or 12 minutes of Travis Wertman, one of the officers, his video raw, because I believe it sets a little bit more context and helps provide a little bit more clarity about the information the officers had when they went into the apartment complex. So let's watch this first edited portion, and then we'll go to the other piece.
As part of our ongoing commitment to transparency, the Portland Police Bureau is releasing this initial body-worn camera footage related to a recent in-custody death. Our role is to respond when there are potential threats to life safety. We are committed to upholding the civil rights of all individuals and protecting human life and property. This commitment includes ensuring the welfare of members of the public with an emphasis on the sanctity of life and policing with respect. We understand the public's desire for information, and it's important to us that we share what we can as quickly as possible. This is just the first step in providing the facts, and more details will come as the investigation continues. It's important to remember that this is still an active case, and there are legal processes, including a thorough review by the district attorney, that must be followed to ensure fairness for everyone involved. For now, we are offering this footage and a brief summary to keep the community informed, while being mindful of the balance between transparency and the need for a complete and careful investigation. On Friday, June 27th, 2025, at approximately 10 o'clock p.m., North Precinct officers responded to an apartment complex in the 8500 block of North Argyle Way on reports of a man in crisis with a weapon. Initial information suggested the man, later identified as 52-year-old Damon Lamar Johnson, had been spreading shaving cream on the walls, flooding his apartment, grunting at people, and hanging knives out a window, resulting in evacuations of the apartment floor by building staff. At approximately 10:23 p.m., after requesting that medical stage nearby, officers J.P. Duque Valencia, Travis Wortman, and Jason Epton arrived at Johnson's apartment and made contact with him. All three officers were wearing body-worn cameras.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up, man? Hey, how you doing, man? You doing okay?
As you can see, the officers try establishing rapport and dialogue with Johnson. This lasts for about 4 minutes. At 10:27 p.m., officers attempt to take Johnson into custody on a mental health-related police officer hold.
Hey, don't resist or force from using this, you understand? Hey, stop, okay? Okay, all right. That's fine, yeah, all right, that's good, dude. Yeah, just don't try, man. You guys are like, okay, no, for stopping. We're not throwing out the window. Stop. Hey, stop. Hey, don't resist. Hey, come on, don't resist, stop. Here, you're okay. Stop. All right, come on, here. Stop. Get down on the ground. Get down on the ground. Stop resisting. Stop. You're under arrest. For what? You need to stop resisting.
About 3 minutes later, officers get Johnson properly restrained in handcuffs, but he continues to exhibit resistance. Officers call for medical assistance numerous times. They work to calm Johnson, and they repeatedly ask him to stop resisting.
Be okay. We're here to help you. But you gotta stop fighting.
Out there? Yeah, they're coming up. Oh, wait, perfect, yeah, they just need to come and sedate him.
At 10:35 p.m., while officers are waiting for medical, they realize something is wrong with Johnson.
Okay. You don't drink that. Damn it. Hey, where are the paramedics at? We're on side. Hey, we're for you inside. Hey, bud. Hey. Damn it. Wake up, bud. There is? Yeah.
Officers make another request for medical assistance and continue to try to get a response out of Johnson.
Hey. Damon, come on, bud. Come on. Hey, stay with us. Damon, stay with us, barely. Stay with us. Is your pulse slight? I just want to take a breath in. Hey, Damon. Hey, stay with us, man. Stay with us. Come on. Hey. Where are they at? Get them up here.
At approximately 10:37 p.m., medics arrive at Johnson's apartment and take over his care to include CPR for more than 15 minutes. A little after 11 p.m., Johnson is wheeled out of his apartment and transported to the hospital where he is pronounced deceased. This concludes the summary of the June 27th in-custody death in the Kenton neighborhood of North Portland. The following are unedited individual videos of the incident, starting with the officers arriving at Johnson's apartment door and ending with the medics taking over the scene.
So we're going to show you just a little bit of Officer Wortman's video. It's just the raw portion of it. But what you're going to hear is him on the route to the call having a conversation with the security guard, excuse me, and getting information, and then upon arrival, coordinating with the other officers. So like I said, there are 3 officers on scene. This was a call that we would classify as an ECIT, Enhanced Crisis Intervention training, and JP did have ECIT training, had been a recent ECIT graduate. So you may recall that's the additional training we offer above crisis intervention team training, which is the basic level course that's offered through the academy and our advanced academy. So, he was there, the three of them coordinate. We're going to play this video just until where they put hands on, and then through all the other raw footage, you can kind of piece together the struggle. There's not a lot at times because there is such close connectivity to everybody. It's hard to see with the cameras, but the raw footage will provide a little bit more feedback. But we want to give some context that the officers received prior to arriving at the call.
And do you want to say that they're still driving and on the phone?
Yeah, they're driving to the call when they're talking on the phone. They haven't arrived yet, yes.
Hey, this is Officer Warman with Portland Police. Hey, you want to tell us what's going on with A311?
Well, yes, it's not A311, it's just 311 at the main lobby or the main building. But, it's up on the third floor. I believe the guy's named David. He was hanging knives out of his window. He's had several different issues here for the past 3 days, yelling, screaming, slamming stuff. And today
So we gotta kind of figure out how we can, if the water's like coming out and becoming a problem to where like it could affect everyone or being a, you know, an issue for everyone, then we gotta figure that out there. But as of now, we're trying to avoid going in.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see how it looks, like maybe he's just throwing some water out and security could be,
They were, they had, I was down here 2 days ago,
yeah.
for a guy who was acting crazy, and literally he was just shadow boxing in the courtyard.
So it's, and like with the whole knives at the window, like there's no danger to themselves or other with that. So I mean, like we're really just kind of banking on the water part, is like as far as for the POH and everything.
I'll call you guys next
Yeah.
week.
Right.
Is it down there?
No,
It's-
it's up ahead.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
It's, just past this warehouse building, there's apartments on the right, and the driveway is just past the apartment.
Okay.
But that once you back in there, you're kind of committed. I remember you can't turn around really. Yeah, we're not. Yeah,
Okay.
I remember the place.
Yeah, if you pull in there, bro,
It's a text piece that you turn.
okay, so we'll just walk.
We're gonna walk. Yeah. I remember this place.
This is the place I told you I'd been on.
It's right here, so you just park it like right here. It's fine.
Where's the driveway?
Right here. It's this turn right here. You don't want to go in there.
Oh, let me park right here.
That's fine. Yeah. Pull it right here. Stop right here. Just stop it. That's fine. Stop. He probably parked back up there. Yeah. What apartment number? It's
311.
311. He's gonna pull it right there. Trust me, when you get down there, you're committed. Also, security said like 2 people that witnessed it don't want to talk to the police in the night thing.
So there's no big, and like that, great old circumstance, especially with guns.
Yeah. Like the issues of the water is like it becoming a.
Yeah, but that's like a building in.
Well, yeah, that's what we gotta talk to manager or fire or whatever. We figure out what we can do to do it without safely, without getting in there. See what I'm saying though? When you come in here, bro, you gotta like back down. You're committed, like you're in here. There's no. And if I've been here where there's cars parked here, and I literally had to like reverse out. I thought the main one was this one right here. Am I wrong? Oh, okay. I thought that was.
Let me look, I got 61.
Yeah, he's out. Wait, watch out. Is that coming out or? Oh, does it open like that? I see him in there. Hey, you guys mind just like going over that way in case he throws something out of there? Yeah. There's someone up in there. Well, that means he's not in this room. No, I mean, not in the hallway. They said he's out.
Yeah, we've been having problems with You want to come out and talk with us, man? No? Hey, is your water running? What are you doing, man? Clean? Yeah. Okay. How much longer are you gonna be cleaning? How much longer? Hour is? Yeah.
I don't think AMR's here yet, so. Usually they make himself or others.
What's your name, man? Damon? Yeah. Johnson. Oh, Lamont Johnson. So we clear fire and then,
Triple five, you can have fire clear. What's our ETA on the month? What do you think? You can go 6 and 1 if you wanna, if you're Richard. Yeah.
hey man, can you come out and talk to us? I just don't want to step all over your bed.
Let's not go up the next room, but let's not.
You want to step it up for us?
Hey, screw up so I can see. Screw up so I can see.
Can we help you with something?
No.
Can we help you with your bed?
Our hands are free. I don't like what's over there, except for this little kitchen right here. If that's the case, we can start moving stuff. So we can- Start moving that stuff. Be careful around that corner, but that's where the kitchen. There you go.
Yeah, just gotta move your bed around, right, man?
Hey, don't resist or force your use against you, you understand? Hey, stop, okay?
Okay, all right.
That's fine, yeah,
All right,
take it back.
that's good.
Yeah, just don't be short, man.
Would you get the lights, please?
So the rest of the footage, and then, as I said, the raw footage from the other cameras has been released and shows more of the custody and just sort of the elongated version of all of this. You may have heard, but they did send both fire and AMR to the scene originally as part of the call. The officers cleared fire, but AMR was staged in the area. Staging varies in terms of proximity. And once the officers, began, you'll see in some of the other footage, once the officers began to attempt custody, even before the significant struggle, they were requesting AMR to come up a little bit closer, because they recognized that there was probably going to be a need for medical support. And of course, AMR is our primary transport with our police officer holds. And then, as mentioned in the earlier video, there were requests for AMR to be up and respond. We're working with them. We obviously have shared this information with them. We've also shared this information with Transition Projects. They're the managers of the apartment complex, and really have done a tremendous amount of outreach to try and educate and share with the community the circumstances and facts that led up to this. Once again, recognizing it's an ongoing investigation, so it's really tough to answer specifics because we have to protect the integrity of that. I just want to highlight that, you have the medical examiner's office who will make a determination of cause and manner of death. That has not come back yet. We have our detective division, which is also partnering with East County Major Crimes, which is handling the criminal investigation. So there is an independent view there with East County Crimes involved with us. Our Internal Affairs Division will do a review of policy and directives, and they will work with our training division, and that will also be done with cooperation with the Independent Police Review. And then finally, District Attorney Vasquez and I have been in conversation, and ultimately he is responsible for the investigation. He delegates that authority to us to do the investigation, but once he receives all of the information from investigators, then he'll make a determination on next steps, whatever they might be. I don't have a timeline for that. You'll have to ask his office. Just want to emphasize, and we'll take some questions, this is a tragedy. This is not an outcome that any of us desire, and certainly the Police Bureau expresses its condolences, and not only for this individual, but for all those impacted and affected by that, including our own members who are obviously affected by these events. And so we're really going to be as transparent and as open and candid as we can be, once again, protecting the integrity of the process. So can open up for some questions now. Kyle?
Why was Mr. Johnson kept face down for 4 minutes after being handcuffed? Should he have been put in a recovery position?
That'll be part of the investigation that'll be looked at, in terms of, like I said, when you see the other footage, that'll certainly be part of the investigation. I can't speak to that right now in terms of whether or not there was, ongoing threats that the officers identified or what the case might be. So that's definitely one of the questions we'll be answering. Yes?
It looks like when they approached, they were sort of having a conversation with them. Why was he arrested?
They were taking him into custody for what we call a police officer hold, POH. You heard that terminology, and it's where an officer believes that they may be a danger to themselves or others, so they're going to place them on a hold so they can be transported to hospital for evaluation, being in crisis.
Can I follow up real quick and ask, why was the Portland Street Response dispatched? Is it because of the weapons element?
Yeah, well, two things. They would not have been working at that time of day, but also because of the weapons element. There could be something in the future where there is some type of co-response model where that would be appropriate. It's something that we're open to and we're willing to consider, but this particular call would not have, warranted something for Portland Street Response. So, did you have something?
This is kind of piggybacking off of that question. In the video, officers can be heard saying that there's no victim, that the water is a management issue, and then I think even in that segment that you played, one of the officers says that it's not a concern of him being a danger to himself or others. So why that police officer hold?
Yeah, and that's, once again, that's going to bear itself out in the investigation through the reports, through the interviews that are being done. Can't speak to that specifically. I don't want to make assumptions based simply upon the video. We want to get the video out. People will draw conclusions from that. I recognize it's incomplete, but in the spirit of getting information out, I still think it's important. And as this becomes more clear, as we're able to piece the things together, hopefully we'll be able to answer some of those questions more clearly.
And Chief, you hear I believe it's like a manager or security official telling officers that I guess Mr. Johnson maybe posed some concern for maybe a month. Was police called to the apartment complex before about him, or were there 911 calls made?
We're not aware of, Mike, off the top of your head in your process, Sergeant Myers is with the Homicide Division. I'm not aware of previous calls specific to Mr. Johnson that we're aware of at this point.
Not in relation to their response to it.
Right. So not at this time. There was statements made that, he'd been difficult for 3 days leading up to it, and there were statements made that, they'd been on and off for a month. And so, as I said, we're sharing all this information with our partners in that space to see where were there potential breakdowns, were there opportunities prior to. My desire is that law enforcement should not even have to be to these calls for service. I've said it many times before. If there's anybody that wants to step into this gap and take on that responsibility, I'm very open to that. Unfortunately, the number of people in crisis and the limited amount of resources oftentimes do default to law enforcement. And we have limited resources available to us to mitigate. And so I think we, as a community, need to continue to strive to look for ways to create other models and other response alternatives, so this doesn't fall upon, law enforcement as the only one.
And Chief, just a quick follow-up. I know this isn't AMR, this is the police bureau, but you can see at 10:35 p.m. when I believe Mr. Johnson starts to lose consciousness, the officers are kind of saying, like, where are the paramedics? Like, get them now. Like, I know the paramedics were staged, and I believe they came, I think, 2 or 3 minutes later. Was there a reason they didn't come sooner? Have you had conversations with AMR about that?
Well, that's all part of the investigation. I mean, we are interviewing with them in terms of their participation, and we have shown them this video yesterday, I believe it was. So, but you're right. Only they can speak to that. They are on different radio nets than us. So we're working through the 911 system. But there was about a 5-minute delay from the first request until they actually entered the apartment, and so, those are things that we definitely want to look at and be aware of.
Yeah, I know you said the details, because the investigation being ongoing, are limited. Are you willing to say if there was any evidence of drug use or anything in the apartment at this point that was found by the officers that were responding there, or anything else that may have indicated why he was acting like this?
Yeah, not at this time. I don't want to make any assumptions. I want to wait until we're able to put this into a complete package to present to the DA, and of course a lot of that will also be dependent upon the medical examiner's observations. Kyle?
What is Portland Police policy on prone restraint?
Right. So, obviously we do teach the recovery position. We do talk about medical care and making sure that they're, getting proper medical care. It would be speculative for me to say whether or not there was a time or a place for him to be put in the recovery position prior than what's indicated at the end of it. But, we have taught that for a number of years, that awareness for officers to have. And I think the voices that I'm hearing from the officers as they're trying to talk to him and help him and encourage him, demonstrate a level of compassion and empathy. But was there an opportunity for them to be able to reposition him or not will have to be done through the investigation process.
Other law enforcement agencies around the country have banned or strictly limited prone restraint. Is that something that you'd be willing to explore?
Well, we're always looking to best practices. We're always looking to learn. And in this particular example, he was handcuffed behind his back. There wasn't the use of the hobble or other techniques. So once again, it's just it'd be too speculative for me to see whether or not the actions of the officers in this case do match up either with our training or with these references you're making around the country. But to answer your question, I'm always open to that conversation, to learn and to see what's happening out there, to see if there's ways, whether this was avoidable or not, but to just see how we can continue to improve. Yeah.
Is there a cause of death or a preliminary investigation?
Not at this time. We're waiting for the medical examiner report.
Do you know when that would
Could be a few weeks, maybe longer. They're waiting for toxicology, and that takes a significant amount of time. So my expectation is it's going to be a few weeks yet.
Okay, and just to clarify in the summary, there appears to be like a sort of takedown and then a missing section that sort of cuts to face down in the water. Do you know how long was in that cut and what's happening?
It's about 3 minutes from the time that they start to take him into custody till he is in custody, and that's what the raw footage will be available to show, that minute, that space. Yes.
The deceased sister, Terry Johnson.
Excuse me?
The deceased sister, Terry Johnson.
Yes.
In a statement said that after watching the video, she feels that there needs to be increased training. You mentioned that one of the officers did have that specialized training for dealing with people in crisis. Were all 3 officers trained? And do you feel, in response to the sister's statement, that there needs to be additional training to handle people with mental health crises?
Yeah, so PPB has been a national leader in crisis intervention training. We were one of the first agencies in the country to make it mandatory. This is before the state made it mandatory. So we have had ongoing, of course, our partnership with the DOJ and the settlement agreement around this conversation around responding to people in crisis. So we have really become one of the lead agencies in this response. Our behavioral health unit, our clinicians, our response to our crisis negotiation team, et cetera, et cetera. We have taken tremendous steps over the last several years to improve our response. And ECIT, Enhanced Crisis Training, something that we developed that we believe does better position our officers for these types of calls. But at the end of the day, this is not the right response model. This is not who we need going to these calls. These are highly complex situations with people that are in deep crisis, and that crisis could be drug affected, that crisis could be mental health. We don't know what the crisis is, but I know that I am committed to looking for alternatives for that. And unfortunately, right now, the system doesn't allow for it, and it continues to default to the police. In terms of ongoing training for the Police Bureau, you know, we are regularly, through our scenario-based training, creating crisis situations, because these are so many of the types of calls we get. So, you know, in our ongoing training, we're always evaluating, trying to create and simulate that experience for our officers in real time.
Was there a crisis negotiator that night, and was there ever a thought about bringing that person into the scenario?
I don't know about whether there was a crisis negotiator working that evening or not. Those assignments are generally detached. It's possible, I'm not sure. In terms of the officer's decision-making process, you know, that led ultimately to the arrest, will have to be borne out of the investigation, you know, and the questions that they'll be asked when they're interviewed and based upon the reports and otherwise. So.
Chief, one of Mr. Johnson's family members told me that when the family reached out to the Bureau, that someone had told them that Mr. Johnson had died of a heart attack. Now, I know that you said the medical examiner still hasn't come back with that. Have you heard about something like that?
I can't speak to that, you know, cause of death at this point. I'm going to let the ME be the one to share that information. So that would be speculative on my part. Couple more, and then we'll wrap it up. Yes.
I sent this question yesterday, but during the PSEP meeting, it was made, the comment was made that, as you mentioned, leaders in the mental health space, as well as leaders in the Black community, were offered an early private screening of this footage. Is that standard protocol? And if not, why the break from that protocol?
I wouldn't say it's standard in the sense that it has done it before. In fact, when I was the deputy chief in 2018, we had an officer-involved shooting, and we did something similar. At the time, we didn't have body-worn cameras, but we had CCTV video. But it's something that's very important to me. It's important to me because I know that, you know, the history of relationships between police and communities of color, particularly the African-American community in this country, and whether that be as a country, as a state, as a city, or even as an agency, is significant. And I recognize the difficulty and the harm and the fractures that have occurred over the years, and I've tried very hard, both as an agency and as an individual, to learn that, to hear that, to be aware of it. And what I wanted today was for some of these key leaders to have this information, knowing that at 3 o'clock we would be putting it all out to the public, and knowing that they would be looked to because they are leaders in the city, and they would be asked questions about it. And I was very clear to them, this was not an attempt to persuade or to convey any one particular message. They saw the same thing that you just saw. There was no extra information shared, but it was out of respect for them, out of respect for their service, out of respect for the history and the effort to try and continue to develop relationships. And in terms of the mental health community, I would say that was unique. I don't know that we've ever done that before, but we are spending so much time in this space. We need everybody at the table, and you know, certainly it's not possible to invite everybody into the table because it's a big group, and so we had to make some decisions on who we saw. The mayor and I saw as some key players in that conversation. Same thing again, you know, looking to learn, looking to listen, looking to hear their concerns, but they were not provided anything more additional than what you have received now. We just wanted them to have that because I know this afternoon, as this becomes more public, people are going to be looking to them for opinions and ideas and thoughts and responses, and I wanted them to have a chance to organize that and appreciate their service. Kyle, one more and we'll be done.
When the medical examiner does provide cause and manner, will you release that to the public immediately?
We'll release it. In terms of timing, I don't know what it'll be. It'll be released. In terms of timing, I'm not sure, but you know, we'll when we get it, I definitely want to get that information out there.
And that's an important component, but just to, and this may be a little deep in the weeds, but are Portland officers trained to recognize the signs of positional asphyxia?
I'm not going to comment exactly on that term. I'd have to get back to you on that. Kevin, take a look and see, what the training doctrine and talk to training and see, because I don't want to comment specifically to that term other than just medical care. So I think we're good. We? Hey, thank you very much. All right. Thank you.